Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of He Said, a look at the world from a seasoned Black man's perspective. I'm your host, Alvin King, and welcome to our Friday, February the 17th episode. We are so happy that all you guys are joining us tonight. For those of you who have been watching, uh, our special guest tonight was scheduled to be here in January, but due to some unforeseen circumstances, he could not. But he was gracious enough to come back and join us tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And we have the author of "I Wish My Dad," Romal Tune, is here. He is here with us tonight, ladies and gentlemen, to talk about his new book, "I Wish My Dad." And for if any of you are like me, those are four powerful words that actually have been a part of our lives that some of us have answers to, some of us have questions about, some of us are still dealing with just the power of those four words. I happen to be one of them. And thanks to Romal and this wonderful book that he's written, I've had to go back to some old journals to, actually just recap some of the issues that, I've had growing up with the way my father was, or shall I say, was not in my life. But he is here tonight to talk about his new book and answer some of our questions. And we are so, so excited. Uh, it is Valentine's Day week. I hope everybody fared well who participates in Valentine's Day. I did not this year, and but I still had a good day nonetheless. So I'm hoping, like I said, everyone had a good Valentine's Day week. It seems like it's been a holiday week because we just came off the Super Bowl last weekend, which we're going to talk about that later on. And speaking of holidays, Monday is another holiday. President's Day. So I hope if anyone's doing anything special, be safe while you're doing it because there's a lot going on in this world. So just make sure that you be safe doing whatever you have to do. Well, our show is action packed tonight, and I didn't want to, spend a lot of time talking to you guys without having Boddie and Vash on here. So if you are ready, I want to get on with the chat. Well, hello.
Hello, my brothers.
How you doing?
Hey, gentlemen. There's a lot of teeth on the screen right
A lot of teeth. Okay, but
God is good because they are all ours. So.
All
yes.
Well,
hey, if you have a receipt,
it's yours.
I'm saying they are mine, but in the sense of how you're saying it, look, I got a
more so than not.
I got a wonderful dentist.
There you go.
Wonderful.
Look, you ain't trying to put a bunch of hair on your head.
Wonderful.
So you can put it in your mouth.
I can put it in my mouth.
Okay.
That's right.
All right.
You know what? Well, welcome to a new show.
Welcome. The boys are at it.
Look at Boddie representing tonight.
Hey, Meech.
Hey, Meech, how you doing? Thanks for joining us tonight.
I am proudly representing. It's Black History Month. I'm a proud HBCU grad. Yes, I am representing Howard University tonight.
Right.
Well, we said it before we came on while we were backstage, but several of our special guests, including the one who's here tonight,
come on now,
went to Howard University. So we're going to have another bison in the house. Okay. So, but look at you representing. It looks good on you.
Thank you so very much. I try.
Well, I mentioned that, this week seemed like a holiday because we just came off of the Super Bowl. We got to make mention of the Super Bowl. I thought it was an absolute wonderful game. And, I just thought that it was, first of all, my team won, but I just thought that it was an absolute wonderful game all the way around. And from performances to the game, I thought it was a wonderful game.
Yeah. Are you in Kansas City?
Who, me?
Yeah. How is that your team?
How is that my team? Because after all the others are gone, then you pick another one. And okay, so come on with it. Come on.
Look, I'm just saying that I'm in Philly. We're like, go birds, go birds.
Yeah,
so proud. Look, We are, look, I speak on behalf of everyone in Philadelphia, every Eagles fan. We are so proud of the Chiefs, but we are so proud of our Eagles. Go Birds. It was a great game. It was a great event, actually.
I am not going to hate on that. Hey, Blue, I think Blue came on here and said
Yeah,
hello.
hey, Blue.
Hey, Blue, how you doing? I am not going to hate on the Eagles at all
Nope.
because they really played well, and your quarterback threw some wonderful passes. But in addition to the game, of which Bobby has boycotted the NFL, in which he's sitting there, he's boycotted it for a few years.
Said nothing.
There was some spectacular performances to some, and not to some. But Shirley Ralph sang the Black National Anthem. And did you all see that at all?
I watched
Yes.
it on YouTube. I did watch performances on YouTube. So yes, and she was giving Broadway diva, classic, I'm here, look at me. Working.
For as long as I can milk this.
It's her season.
It's her season. It is her season.
It is completely her season. So I'm giving her all that. And, I'm going to be honest with you. Singing the National Black Anthem, it is a very hard song to sing. So you got to give it some theatrics or something. I'm a choir boy. So if you're not doing it with the choir, you need to bring a little something. And she brought a little something.
She brought it.
And
look good bringing it.
And look good. Well, and to keep the momentum going, another girl who's Miss It Girl right now, Rihanna, showed up with two people.
Okay.
Her 1.5.
1.5.
1.5.
She showed up, and in my opinion, she showed out. She came, she did what needed to be done. And I don't know what other pregnant woman in the world is going to go 200 feet up in the air with a baby inside. I don't know who's going to do that, and didn't miss a beat. It
was very impressive technologically, and just it is yet another example. I think of Serena, out there winning tournaments with a baby inside of her, Rihanna performing in front of arguably one of the largest audiences any entertainer will ever have, and just Black women,
easy and entertained. I mean, I thought that she was extremely compelling to watch.
Black women.
And then when this came out, British Vogue, she's on the cover of British Vogue with her and ASAP with their new baby. I think I posted, if you're gonna get pregnant again, you do it after you do this shoot, because this shoot right here was that was something this was a magnificent shoot, I thought. But it's her time. It's her season.
I will say this to you though, Alvin. It's been interesting because I have seen on social media a little bit of controversy or pushback around this photo, and questioning whether or not it is not demeaning, but kind of like is emasculating to ASAP, And I find that really interesting, because I don't ever think anyone would ever question if ASAP were standing in front and Rihanna were behind. I don't know if people would automatically assume that it was offensive to her. That we're so used to seeing a man, but the story is about Rihanna, and it's about her being in the moment. And I saw it as what an extraordinarily beautiful image of her man being right there behind her, holding that baby, holding her down, in this being her season. So I saw it very differently, but it was very interesting that there were some possible trolls, because the internet is full of haters.
Yes, they are.
Who wanted to pick at the picture. I thought it was absolutely beautiful image of a beautiful Black family.
I agree with you.
A fragile masculinity to have people see a picture of a family, and somehow have to equate roles and positions into who someone is and how they fit into the family.
Because if we were going to do that, let's be clear, she's worth billions.
She got all the money.
She is the breadwinner. But she got the money.
She got all the money.
What is that song? What better have my money? She got
all the money.
She opened with that, and we can say that online, but we won't say that tonight. But
we're not saying it. That's why I said, what gotta have my money?
And one more thing that people have been screaming about online about Rihanna, her red coat. They were saying that it was satanic. It was a it was
a nod to Leon Talley.
It was a nod to Andre Leon Talley. But those are people who don't even know who Andre Leon Talley is. You know what I'm saying? Again, these social media trolls who just got to find something to say and don't know when to say it, or even to do their homework to see why she's saying it. You know,
I thought it was a good memo. I was like, Cheryl Lee got on red too. I was like, everybody's wearing red.
Red is it seems to be the color this season, and Satan is also having his time right now because everyone is doing it or talking about it or saying that someone is honoring or whatever. There it all is.
I did it on Sunday. I had on a onesie for the game, and I had a wonderful time. But
and so it was red too.
It was red too. So thank you all for indulging me in that. It was a great game, and I am so happy that our next our guest is here tonight. Hey Alma, thank you for joining the show. Thank you. I'm so glad that our guest is here because ever since I picked his book up in October, I have been just a second. We got Dennis Williams on here, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey,
okay.
Dennis.
What did you say, Dennis? Many great Black women entertainers have had to play second chair to their husbands. It's great to see her not having to shrink in order to be with her man.
Yeah.
Bring that. Exactly. What does Maurice say?
He's saying that it's sad that so many people in our community try to find an excuse to bring men and hyper feminize them. I guess bring men down and hyper feminize them.
Yeah, it's just not needed. Again, Facebook trolls, go away. Okay.
Oh wow! did you just do the I dream of Jeannie? Like wham!
Go away. Okay.
Wow.
But as I said, tonight we have a very special guest here. I have his book right here. He has brought up and conjured up some feelings that I thought that I had put away. But the book is excellent, ladies and gentlemen. So if you all are ready, I want to go ahead and introduce our special guest tonight. If you guys are ready.
Absolutely.
All right. Our special guest tonight is Romal Tune. Romal Tune is a speaker, author, and social entrepreneur. He serves as a vice president at TMS Global and is the founder of ClereStory Education, a nonprofit that offers workshops and coaching about mental health. Tune is a graduate of Howard University,
HU,
and Duke Divinity School, and speaks internationally. He is also the author of God's Graffiti and Love is an Inside Job. I think we have the picture of his book, God's Graffiti. Yes, and Love is an Inside Job. And tonight, the father of two is here to talk about his new book, I Wish My Dad, The Power of Vulnerable Conversations Between Fathers and Sons. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to our He Said stage tonight, author Romal Tune.
Yeah.
There he is. Hey, Romal.
Hey, what's up, Alvin? Good evening, everybody. It's good to finally be here. Thank you.
Yes.
Glad to have you here.
Glad to have you here. 100%. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think the last time, did you just celebrate a birthday?
I did. February 3rd. It's my birthday.
He celebrated a birthday. So happy belated birthday to you, my friend.
Yeah. 21. There you go.
Well, I'm going 41.
Oh, look. Okay, that's another talk show, Romal. So we're not going to say that. Well, yeah, right. But look, again, good evening, Romal, and welcome to the show. And first and foremost, congratulations on your new book, I Wish My Dad. It has changed my life in ways that I might have to go to my therapist at another appointment, but it is wonderful, and I just thank you enough for being here. So I'm going to kick it off by asking you if you would talk about, I mentioned it in your bio, can you tell us about the ClereStory Education that I mentioned in the introduction?
Sure, yeah. ClereStory basically started about 15 years ago. I used to own a consulting company when I lived in Washington, D.C., and wanted to create a way that I could give back, specifically focusing on issues that I had to overcome in my childhood to help families and young people who were trying to overcome the same types of things. So basically, ClereStory comes from an architectural term, and it's basically the highest level of a wall that contains windows that let in light. And so we use it as a metaphor to say that we shine a light on your life, to shed light on the stories that have shaped who you have become in the world. So we do workshops and seminars across the country around mental and emotional health. We provide tuition assistance for students in high needs communities to go to college. That has, been tuition. It's also been housing, both in the U.S. and in specifically parts of West Africa for kids who go to university. And we also subsidize the cost of counseling services for families and individuals.
So, what? How does one get involved with ClereStory, if I may, before we move on?
Sure. The website is ClereStoryWorks.org. That's CLERE, ClereStoryWorks.org. And there you can learn about the work, the workshops, and different things we've supported. Some of the students, you may even see their pictures there. But yeah, I started it about 15 years ago. The pivot now is to focus primarily on mental health. And in fact, I'll be able to share some news around what that looks like with I Wish My Dad. That it's beginning to take place now. Some things are unfolding.
Excellent.
All right. You guys may hear it first on He Said, He Said, He Said. Thank you, Romal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We are that place. Well, Romal, I have a question for you. Why did you write this book?
Yeah, good question. So my dad and I didn't have much of a relationship when I was growing up. Grew up in a single parent home with my mom. I met my dad when I was 15. At the age of 16, I went to live with him 2 years. He kicked me out after high school. And we were pretty much disconnected all the way until my mom died. And he showed up at the funeral. And that was kind of contentious. But about 3 years ago, I went to visit him. And basically, I showed up not as a wounded 16-year-old, but as the adult I am now, having done my work, and really had a lot of grace and compassion for him in the fourth quarter of his life. It really went well. And I came back home to Atlanta and just had this flood of I wish my dad thoughts. And in those moments, I felt lonely. And in that loneliness, I wanted to find out if there were other people like me who had I wish my dad stories. In essence, to create a community of people so that I didn't feel alone in the world, and for us to walk alongside each other and find ways to heal the stories of ourselves and break the cycles that we come from. And so I set out and put together a list of 17 people. By the end of January, it was January 3rd when I had the idea. By the end of the month, I'd interviewed 10. By the end of February, I'd interviewed all 17 of the guys.
Wow. Well, it seems to me that there was something that you felt was missing that you needed to become whole. What is it that dads give their sons that no one else can?
Yeah, man, that's a really good question. What is it that dads give their sons that no one else can? I think in a healthy context, our dads are the first examples of what it means to be a man. They also are able to give us permission to be our best selves and to be who we are truly meant to be in the world. And so they're the first mirror that we look at in terms of who we can be in the world. And by seeing their example, by the lessons we learn. And so when it is a healthy relationship, there's a lot that a dad can offer about what it means to be a man, and exemplify through their actions, not simply their words, but what it looks like to love people well, treat them well with respect and dignity in this body. And so my mom did the best she could with what she had, but there are just certain things she couldn't teach me. My grandmother, who I love more than anything in the world, did the best she could, but I modeled my uncles because they were my mirror into my maleness. And that actually wasn't always the best thing to do.
Yes, indeed. I hear that. I mean, yeah. what you said was really, really deep, because indeed, like, if a dad is able to be vulnerable, is able to communicate, is able to share freely and be affectionate, that is going to trickle down into his son. So that's really powerful. Your answer was very, very well said. Thank you.
Absolutely. And speaking of that important role that fathers can play, you too are a father, as Alvin mentioned in your introduction, and you actually co-wrote this book with your son, Jordan. So I would love if you could reflect on your relationship with Jordan, given the absence of that kind of role modeling other than your uncles in your life, and his specific role actually in the process of putting this book together.
Yeah. So, what I've come to learn through doing my own work in therapy and really reflecting back on the stories that have shaped who I believed I was in the world as a man, I came to realize that I was not equipped to be a good dad with the skills that were handed down to me by my uncles and the men in my family. That I was, in essence, living into with my son everything that my uncles taught me. And none of it was healthy. Um, Inner city neighborhood, they were hustlers, and it was everything the streets offer. My family has been a part of, and in many ways still is. But in becoming a father, I was ill-equipped. I didn't know what I didn't know, because the only narrative and example I had was my own story. And that was the script that I was beginning to hand down to my son, which was not and would not have been healthy for him. Through doing my work and going to therapy, I realized that there were skills I had to learn, because my uncles lived through the assumption that if his life is only going to exist through the lens of this neighborhood, then he's going to have to know how to live the way we live, treat people the way we treat them, and do things the way we do them. And that's what will equip him to survive. They were not equipped, even if they believed that they could see my life beyond the hood. They didn't have the skills to teach me what thriving looked like. And that wasn't language that was used by them. Life was about survival.
Yes.
So I realized that I was teaching my son skills that he was not going to need if he was going to live into a life of thriving. And very often we have a tendency to pass down skills and beliefs to our children that actually have no value in terms of who they are becoming in the world. That their lives aren't about surviving. It's about thriving, being healthy, emotionally well, and treating people well. Jordan and I are in a healing journey of our relationship. And it started with me asking him to be a part of this book. And that came about because I did 3 interviews with men who flew in and came to my home, and realized that if I'm going to write this book with any integrity, I have to interview my son, because he has an I Wish My Dad story. And so my birthday was coming up. It was February of 2021. And he asked me what I wanted. And I asked him I said, I want you to, interview me for the book, and I want to interview you. And his response was, are you sure you want that? And
I read that. And I was like, okay, Jordan.
He's very comfortable in his own skin. And basically, I knew and he knew it would be a very difficult conversation. But my reason was not for the book. It was really about, how do I position my son and I in a conversation that allows him to give voice to his truth, his pain, so that he doesn't carry baggage that was never his to begin with. So I wanted to take off of him the things that I had placed on him by not being present and by my own mistakes. And by creating this safe space and protected space and holding it with open hands, not trying to defend, respond, explain, but let him speak his truth, it put us on a new journey. And now I don't believe there are any ghosts in our relationship, because the secrets have been confronted and exposed, and they no longer live in silence. And so when we interact, there's nothing haunting the relationship, because we've started the journey of saying what needs to be said in truth and in love.
Well, you spoke on a couple of things, obviously, that were really important. One of them being the whole notion of your ability and openness to therapy, to be able to have an external source in terms of working with you and working through some of those challenges. But also, I just want to tip my hat to you in modeling for your son, being able to own one's areas where they felt they did not necessarily rise to the occasion, and being able to have that authentic conversation with him. So thank you.
Yeah, wow. And wow, that was probably one of the most touching poor pieces in the book, seeing you have that conversation with your son, or you all having that type of interaction. That actually drew me in, to be honest with you, and so I could get to the other chapters. But I want to ask you, Romal, what do you think are the most formative years for a father to concentrate time with their children, particularly their sons?
That's a good question. But as I think about it, we are all constantly becoming, right? Like all of us at different points in our lives are living into the next iteration of who we're meant to be in the world, right? And so the relationship between a father and son, again, when it is healthy, is one that has value all throughout the journey, as long as you're able to have that connection in a healthy way. So as a child, as a young adult, and even as an older adult, when it's possible to have a relationship with your father that's healthy, there's still that wisdom that comes from a father as well that can be passed down along the journey. So, in terms of the formative years, that might be a question for a therapist, but in thinking about it through the lens of my own journey. And today, like literally, my dad texted me this morning out of the blue. Like we haven't talked and probably close to a year. And
Wow.
he just said, "Hey, it's your dad. I want to see how you're doing. I love you." And I responded. We're still all on our healing journey too, which has also been a lens for me to do that work with my son now.
Mm-hmm. Thank
Wow.
you. Thank you. Okay.
Nice.
Wow.
At the end of your interview, Romal, you provided your takeaways, if you will. Why do you think providing takeaways throughout the book was important?
Yeah, the thing about the takeaways is one, they were written by Kendra Frazier, who's also a master social worker and a therapist. And the book is intended to be a tool for healing, right? I always tell people you don't show folks your wounds, you show them your scars because your
Mm.
scars are evidence of healing.
Now
And
there's
so,
a word.
this book, if it is going to be about healing, then there needs to be a way to equip people with tools and lessons that they can take away and use in their own lives.
Yeah. Cool.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I also want to take a moment before Bosch comes in. I want to say hello to Lofton Antoine. Antoine Lofton Antoine. I've known him for years, and we used to sing in the choir together. And I don't know where you are, my brother, but thank you for joining my show tonight. It's good to see your face in the place. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Romal, I'm wondering, there's this whole big movement for like gentle parenting. Do you think gentle parenting is antithetical to the role of the father?
I don't. First of all, in my experience, the models of maleness that we've been given, and for many of us, especially like in my family, be tough, be strong, don't cry, be a fighter, carry all of it. When I look at the people who taught me those things and I look at their lives, that concept actually didn't serve them well at all. That they weren't fully emotionally present for anyone in our family. Carrying all of these things around stress and fear and sadness and not showing it. There's that book, The Body Keeps the Score. It had an impact on their health. Not being fully present to love because love is a sign of weakness, or saying I love you. Those things actually don't serve anyone well. And they're a model of maleness that I think it's time to question and ask, why can't I cry? Why can't I express when I'm afraid or sad? How does that diminish my maleness? It doesn't make me weak. It simply makes me human and a fully integrated person. So when we talk about gentle parenting, I think we're really talking about bringing all of who we are as an example to our children of what it looks like to live a fully integrated life, that your feelings don't make you soft or weak. They simply make you human, that you learn how to manage them. You learn how to, feel the feelings, learn and name what's going on with you so that you can move through a feeling rather than sit in it. As one of my therapists says, your feelings are, especially fear, is a message carrier. It's like a mail person. You don't, when they drop off the mail, you don't invite them to stay. You receive it, you look at the message, and you send them on their way. And so oftentimes some of our feelings around fear and angst are here to deliver a message. And the question we should be asking is, what are you here to teach me? When we're able to understand that and model that for our children, we're not living into a soft model of parenting. We're showing them what it looks like to be fully human and live a fully integrated life.
So based on all of that you just said, what did you think of the Vogue cover with Rihanna and ASAP and the baby?
I loved it because, again, I heard the conversation. First of all, when it comes to women in my life, my models of love and leadership were my grandmother, right? So my grandmother, because of her love for me and telling me to leave the Bay Area and move to live with my dad, highly likely saved my life from the things I was getting into in the streets. And so I've never had a problem. And I believe most men, if they're honest, when you look at the model of leadership that you receive from your mother and your grandmother, you've always been led by a woman and you just didn't name it as such. And so most of my mentors have been strong Black women. And so when I see a woman on the front of the cover and her husband behind her holding their child, I don't see it as a message of dominance or someone being, in power and someone not being in power. What I see is a Black family standing together, and they're just in different positions at different times. Amen. What I see is a man holding his child and being man enough to let his woman stand in her greatness. So I don't see a problem with that.
Absolutely.
Oh Lord, can I raise a glass? Come on. He said glass is raised.
Wait a minute, hold on. Here it is right here.
There it is. There we go. It's raised.
Well, Romal, I'm going to jump in the book because first of all, let me tell anyone, if you haven't purchased the book, please purchase the book. The book isn't all about sad stories about how people are, it is a bevy of wonderful things that you can take away. So please get the book. But one of the chapters, Romal, that stood out for me most was, I wish my dad affirmed my value. And the reason why this stuck out for me was the father was projecting how, at least my takeaway from it was, the father was projecting how he was perceived as soft and effeminate onto his son, Michael Ray. By doing so, though, he actually traumatized Michael Ray. And because I felt some kind of way, can you share with me how you felt hearing Michael Ray tell this story?
Yeah, man. Michael Ray is a good friend of mine. We're actually going to be doing an event together this weekend in LA on Sunday. Excellent. But he came to my home. He flew in from the Bay Area, and when he sat and told me that story, I mean, that was one of the heavy moments in his story. But he jumped in like, I just need to let you know some things. And but when I heard Michael Ray share a moment with his dad in the kitchen, it really hurt my heart. Because his dad modeled this idea of toughness, and I think was attempting to strengthen his son emotionally by attacking him. And I find that in my own experience and the experiences of others, somehow parents think that by attacking and saying harsh things, it'll toughen you up. When in reality, you'll never get a positive outcome from negative feedback, right? And you're shaping that child's identity and sense of self. And so it was really hard, but I mean, Michael Ray is one of the most courageous brothers. I mean, front line on social justice, in protest, literally putting his life on the line for Black people. So he's anything but soft. And I think his dad was really speaking through his own childhood wounds and out of fear for his son. And because he had not dealt with some of his own, inner trauma, he was traumatizing his son.
Yeah, that was a very heavy. That was one of the chapters that was very heavy and stuck out to me. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you, Romal.
Obviously, this whole book revolves around these conversations between fathers and sons. the world has changed now, and the family dynamic has changed in the sense that it is completely possible that a child could have indeed two fathers in their lives. Do you have different recommendations or approaches when the family composition involves two dads?
Yeah, I think for me, the whole model of parenting is really about love, right? What does love look like, and allowing and creating an environment and living into a relationship with your child that makes them feel fully loved. So, if you exclude roles, be it, two dads or two moms or what have you, what does love look like? How is your child going to know through the experience of love that they are able to fully be themselves, that their home is safe emotionally and physically, that their body is safe, their mind and their spirit is in a safe place? If you can do that, you will probably raise a healthy child. Because that child will be fully integrated. They will have a deep sense of self. They will know what love looks like at home before they leave the house and have the streets teach them, or social media teach them, or the neighborhood, because they have seen it modeled at home, and they will have an expectation of love with integrity, love with authenticity, love that's affectionate, love that's also firm at times. So I don't know that that's gender specific. I think that's just what living into what love truly is supposed to feel like in relationship.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
There's a Native American tradition where the parents do not discipline the child. Relatives do the disciplining, and the parents really are like the providers and givers of love, which is really just dovetailing off of what you said, which is making sure that the child always feels safe physically, mentally, and emotionally from their parents. I have a question about how a single mother might use this book to have conversations with their child if the father is not present. Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, well, Vash, when you were telling that example, I remember in my neighborhood, you could get a whooping down the street before you got home.
You better tell it.
Before you got home.
You better tell it.
You
better tell it.
I'm about to whoop him, and here's why, and then send me home for a second.
Exactly.
Right. As they were saying, your mama raised you better than that. Okay. So go on and tell her I beat you.
Right. And so, but in terms of a single parent mom, I've had women, you can see in the reviews on Amazon as well, that women who are raising a child, a male child, have said the book is helping them have conversations with their son. It's also been helping some people get a lens into the dynamics of the father, and what they bring or don't bring, and think about the story of their parenting that came from their childhood experiences that are now showing up with that child, or in the father's absence, learning different dynamics around the difficulties and some of the trauma experiences of those men. But I've also had sisters say to me, this book has helped them heal some of the dynamics with their own fathers. Even though the book is about fathers and sons, it's really about relationships. Yes. And, women have I wish my dad stories. What I've learned, I'm working on something, I'm trying to get my daughter to do it, is I wish my mom, for daughters and moms, because I think that is going to be interesting. But for single parent moms, the book has become a lens into the dynamics of the father in his absence, or sometimes in his distance, and also a way to have conversations with their sons about their maleness and the dynamics of the relationship. So I think there's something in here for everyone. And from what I'm hearing from readers, that appears to be the case.
Well, I'm going to speak from example and tell you that there is something in the book for everyone. And to Vash's question about a single mother, I have talked at least 2 single mothers into buying the book. This is my sister. Hey, Carol. My sister, my sister is on here. Thanks for being here. I've talked to women about buying your book, and I have heard some wonderful things. So I'm going to push them to Amazon to make sure that they write a review if they haven't done so, because I know that this book is a lot more than just for fathers and sons. It can help a lot of people. So thank you for confirming that. Ramal, you've gone on a lot of tours for I Wish My Dad with large large crowds. Who are you finding is getting the most out of your book? Men, women, children?
Wow. That's a good question. In all of the places I've been, and which I'm not surprised because women lead very quickly. I see a lot of women in the events. And I see young adults, like I would say the young people who are stepping up and have questions are typically between 16 and probably 25. And they're courageous enough to ask their questions. They want to know how to initiate conversations with their fathers. And then I would say another group is older adults, folks who are like 65 and older. And their question is really around, how do you heal when your parent is no longer here?
Yeah.
And one thing I tell them first is there are ways to do that healing work without the parent being present. And you can learn how to do that by going to work with a therapist who can work with you through the lens of what you need on your healing journey. And the other thing that I'm very mindful of that I also share with people is that your healing is not dependent upon anyone's apology, that you do not have to concede your healing to someone else and their ability to say, I'm sorry, but you can redeem that power, take it back, and get on your own journey of healing so that you can become the best version of yourself that you are supposed to become in your lifetime.
Amen.
That's powerful.
That's important to know, because whatever your journey is, you are who you are because of it. And the best thing to do is to learn how to stand up in that and move forward.
Own it.
Yeah, you know, one of the things, Vash, around that, I have learned that I need to redeem the better parts of me from my past pain. In other words, what I mean by that is when you do your healing work, you can make your trauma submit to your greatness. And when your pain and your trauma submits to your greatness, the pain and trauma now becomes a tool that you are able to use rather than the trauma using you.
Yes.
And so the question that I'm often living into is, who am I without my trauma? In other words, I am not allowing my trauma to use me, but I'm now using it as a tool so that I can give medicine back to the world. Yes. And so when I think about current relationships and the trajectory of my life, my beliefs, the desires that I have, that I'm not viewing the world and people through the lens of my pain, but I'm viewing them through the lens of my greatness, and I'm making my pain submit to the greatness and using it as a tool.
I have this philosophy called reset zero. Zero is at a place where everything behind you is negative, but everything forward is positive. Taking stock in what has happened, it is what it is, and let's make it what it's going to be.
Thank you.
Ooh,
wow.
Okay. So wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. I just want to take a very quick second to say, like, it is bringing me such joy hearing your verbiage after reading the book, because it's a beautiful marriage first and foremost. But I just love that, you know, Alvin has provided this vehicle for such extraordinary brothers and sisters to come forth and share their knowledge and their pain through here and offer healing. And it's just a wonderful moment. But I personally was really taken with the interviews between you and your son in particular. There's a lot that's there. And you mentioned a little earlier when I asked you about it, some of the things that you hope people would take away. But one of the questions I have for you is, you know, he was clear in asking you, are you sure you want this? And you acknowledged that it could be a difficult conversation. If there is one thing that you were surprised to learn about your son in those conversations, what was that?
The one thing that surprised me wasn't anything he said. It was what he was attempting not to say. Mm-hmm. And you remember from the book when I stopped him and I said, Jordan, you don't have to protect me from myself.
Yes.
Right.
Because I know who I was. I know who I was, and I know I wasn't a good man. It's okay.
And you knew who you were.
Yeah. And so I was surprised that when he would say, well, you know, when things happened or stuff, he was trying to protect me from myself.
Yes.
And I didn't expect that. And I wanted to let him know that it's okay. Like, I have confronted my shadow self. I have forgiven myself for being who I was and living through the lens of my trauma and the stories that I inherited from my family. And I have courageously, when possible, sought to go back and heal, offer other people healing that I offer myself, because I don't believe that if you're on a healing journey and you're trying to overcome your past, but in that past, you've also been responsible for someone else's brokenness, then be big enough to go back and own that. And so that you can be a part of offering them, if they're open to it, what they need to heal because of what you caused. And so where I've been able to do that, I've courageously confronted it. And where I've not been able to do that, I've forgiven myself and offered myself enough grace to know that the rest of my life will be the best of my life. And I will live through the lens of treating everyone with value, honoring their worth, and leaving behind with people what I call my 6-word sentence, which is, he helps people heal their stories. So in every interaction that I have in life, when I walk away, I'm in control of the narrative that I want to leave behind about myself. And so I stand in the power of knowing that in my presence, it will be about healing. When I walk away, that's the story you will be telling.
Wow, wow, wow. Oh,
Yet
well,
again.
again,
Yet again.
look, we're getting close to the end of our interview, Romal. So I want to ask you before we let you go, was there anything that was left out of the book that you wish was left in?
No, the publishers put everything in there. The brothers in the book, I'm so grateful for them for giving me the opportunity to steward their stories. And I feel like I am the centurion, guarding these stories with love and sharing them with the world, because they've trusted me with their truth. And as you pointed out, Alvin, there are some absolutely beautiful stories in here.
Yep.
And this book truly is good news. But nothing was left on the cutting floor. The publishers let me lean in, and they, in fact, the cover of the book, real quick, and this is important, I think, especially as people of African descent, that was not going to be the cover. It was actually going to just have the title and an orange background. And here's why. Several years ago, a major marketing person out of LA with God's Graffiti, I believe you showed the cover of God's Graffiti, which has me on the cover. He said to me, and that book did very well, it's still selling. He said, Romal, you would have sold more books if you weren't on the cover. I said, why is that? He said, because white women can't take you home.
Oh,
yeah, they can. They pick up the book, baby.
He said, white women cannot put you on the nightstand when their husband gets in the bed with your bald head tattoos out.
Bad but true.
So he said, if you weren't on the cover, more people who don't look like you would have been buying that book. Wow. And so I listened to that and remembered it. And that was years ago. And I started, surrendering the power of my greatness to money and thinking, I want to sell more books. So let me hide my culture and my identity. So white people will buy my book. When in the history of this country has conceding the greatness of your culture ever worked in your favor?
How about that?
Right. And so there's no evidence of that. And so I decided one night, after a bunch of people told me our communities need to see images like this of a father kissing his son on the forehead.
Absolutely.
We need that affection in our communities. And so I reached out to the publisher that night and I said, I want the picture of my son and I on the cover. And because my culture needs this. And the response initially was, well, we normally don't put authors on the cover of the book. And I said, well, are you into doing what you normally do, or do you want to sell books? And so she said, well, I'll take it back. And they came back to me and said, everyone loves the idea. The marketing team loves it. And so it took me choosing my culture, my identity and my value, and giving my people what we need, which is more images of affection and love, and saying, let the chips fall where they may, but what I will not do is hide who I am, and I will not hide my culture out of this false hope of what other people might do because I've bowed to their ideas.
No, please don't hide.
And it is a beautiful cover.
Beautiful cover. Please
so
don't
beautiful.
hide.
It's so beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have to ask you this question.
Sure.
In your opinion, what is the most important thing for a father to either say or teach or convey to their son or child?
Yeah, the number one thing that has been clear through this book, the one thing a father needs to say, and until they can't say it anymore, is I love you.
Mm.
It just needs to be said every single day. People need to hear I love you. Men, women, everyone needs to hear I love you. You're worthy, you're great, you're beautiful. But everything starts with I love you.
I love you, Romal. Thank you so much.
I love you, Romal. I love you, Bobby. I love you, Vash.
I do
because
too.
Truly, at age 64 this year, my father never uttered those three words to me. And so I know the power of that. And I wish my dad, amongst other things, had said, I love you.
And we had conversations, as among the crew here, as we were reading the book. And that is one of the things that as Alvin was sharing that, my heart went out to him, because I grew up in a household where the image of you kissing your son, and it could have been reversed in my lifestyle as well, because my father was always extremely affectionate with all of his children. Anybody who knew the Edwards household know that my dad was 84 when he left in 2015, and we still kissed one another when we left. Like I spoke at both my mother and my father's services, and one of the things I said at both of them is that the greatest gift they gave me was I have never known a day without knowing that I was loved by my mother and my father. It is one of the greatest gifts that sustains me in their passing.
Well, thank you, Brother Bison. Now, guys, I know we have to go. I just want to share this based on what Bobby said. For some of us, we didn't receive healthy models of what love looks like. And so as adults, we live with this angst in our bodies when people who know what love looks like offers it to us. We don't know what to do with it. For so long, when my male friends would hug me and say, I love you, it would freak me out because no one modeled that for me. Mm-hmm. And I had to realize that there were wounds in my story that made me afraid of hearing love and affection from a man. And so I had to redeem the power from those wounds and realize that, one, I'm worthy of love, that it is healthy and okay for someone who looks like me to say, I love you, to offer affection, because it's simply love. And Absolutely. All of us in the human experience need healthy affection and need to be affirmed with the words, I love you. So for anyone who's listening, where you have those wounds in your story, where you're still desiring love, but afraid of it, lean in, go back and revisit those stories and take that power back, because those are things that happened in your life, but they do not have the right to control the rest of your life.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of our interview, because we could have Romal on here until Sunday. Mm-hmm. But Romal, first of all, let me say thank you for blessing us tonight, man, and for sharing with us. I wish my dad. You are phenomenal. The book is phenomenal, and I want everybody to go to Amazon tonight and get the book, if you will, please, because it is an amazing book, and it's more than just a book. It is a tool. So please do that. But thank you for joining us tonight, Romal.
Proud Bison boy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Alvin. Thank you, Vash. please write reviews. Two things: we're working on a docu-series, Wish My Dad, that we want to have come out, and also the book is now being turned into a program around mental health called the Wellness Project. And we have submitted several grants to turn I Wish My Dad into a national program for families.
Wow. Sean just said he's ordering his right tonight. He's
and I just saw another bison of sweetheart Kim McClellan. Thank you for being here, my sister. Oh my God. Oh my God. Look, Romal, don't go away, because we have some more of the show that we need to talk to everyone about, and we want to bring you back. So please don't go away. We're going to bring you back for the next segment of our show. Thank you so much, Romal. Ladies and gentlemen, Romal Tune, I Wish My Dad. Woo. Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wonderful.
My spirit has been lifted.
Okay. Look, ladies and gentlemen, you all, first of all, we're going to run just a little overtime. Our producer has given me permission to do that, because we have a couple of things that we want to share with you. And most importantly, we want to talk about our next segment. And we've been doing all month.
Yep.
We have been saluting different people, past and present. And tonight we're going to salute 3 more people in our Black Excellence series. So if you are ready to go into Black Excellence.
Absolutely.
All right, Bobby Edwards, take it away.
I am happy to start this week's segment honoring my brother, David J. Johns. David is the executive director of the National Black Justice Coalition, a civil rights organization dedicated to the empowerment of Black LGBTQ people, including people living with HIV/AIDS. David is known for his passion, public policy acumen, and fierce advocacy for youth. In 2013, my fellow brother of Kappa Alpha Psi was appointed as the first executive director of the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for African Americans by President Barack Obama. Prior to his White House appointment, Johns was a senator, senior education policy advisor for U.S. Senator Tom Harkin, and also served under Senator Ted Kennedy. David recently completed his PhD in sociology and education policy at Columbia University, and Johns obtained a master's degree in sociology and education policy at Teachers College Columbia. He graduated with honors from Columbia University in 2004 with a triple major in English, creative writing, and African American studies. Johns was also named to the Root 100 in both 2013 and 14, and he served as an adjunct professor at American University. David was the first person who introduced me to challenging the notion of coming out and embracing the notion of inviting in, which empowers us with the position of power and selectivity. Most importantly, David is my mentee, my friend, and brother, whom I first met when he was just 18 years old via his friendship with one of my students. As we celebrate the theme of Black resistance this Black History Month, David embodies a career of speaking up, speaking out, and speaking against those systems that harm our communities. I could not be more proud to know and to love this extraordinary Black man. So tonight, I honor my brother, my frat brother, David J. Johns.
Hey now.
All right.
Hey,
Thank you, Bobby. Hey, David.
Yeah, work it out.
Very good. Thank you.
Well,
all right.
I am going to honor Dr. Carter G. Woodson. So we all celebrate Black History Month, but how many of us actually know how it came to be?
Come on.
Carter G. Woodson was an author, journalist, and American historian, the first scholar to study history of the African diaspora, and he is known as the father of Black History Month. Born in 1875 to freed slaves, he had to put off schooling to work in the coal mines of West Virginia to help support his family. He was largely self-taught and didn't begin high school until the age of 20, but he earned his diploma in less than 2 years. He then attended the University of Chicago and completed his PhD in history at Harvard University in 1912, where he was the second African-American after W.E.B. Du Bois to earn a doctorate. Woodson's love of history led him to join the American Historical Association, and his experience with them helped him to understand that the white-dominated historical professionals had little to no interest in Black history. He saw African-American contributions overlooked, ignored, and even suppressed by the writers of history, textbooks, and the teachers who used them. So he realized he needed to create a very separate scholarly institution in order for Black scholars to study and preserve Black history. With funding from several philanthropic foundations, Woodson started the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History in 1915. The next year, he started the scholarly institution Journal for Negro History, which is still published to this day under the new name Journal of African American History. 11 years later, in 1926, Woodson launched Negro History Week. It was the second week of February to coincide with the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass.
Yep.
The event had a dual purpose. One, give Black Americans history to be proud of, and two, ensuring that the overlooked role of Black people in American history was acknowledged by white historians. 43 years later, in 1969, Black United Students, an organization at Kent State, began to advocate for the entire month of February to be commemorated as Black History Month. In 1976, 50 years after the first Negro History Week, to coincide with the U.S. bicentennial celebration, President Gerald Ford declared February to be Black History Month. He urged all Americans to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. In 1986, Congress passed a law making it so. Woodson died of a heart attack at the age of 74 in 1950, and his legacy lives on every February. In some of his later journals, he wrote, "I have made every sacrifice for this movement. I have spent all my time doing this one thing and trying to do it efficiently." This February, I honor Dr. Carter C. Woodson, the father of Black History Month.
Amen.
Thank
Amen.
you.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, Vash. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the individual that I'm going to honor tonight is, I'm first and foremost, an incredible human being, okay? And I'm honoring him for three reasons, and there are many more. First of all, I wanted to show you that men who look like us, who are proud, smart, Black, gay men, are sitting as senior VPs of major corporations. I wanted to recognize a Black, gay, single dad based on our storyline tonight, who's raising a beautiful Black son right here in America. And third, I am honoring him because he has enriched my life in a way that few have ever done, and he did so by supporting me while I was supporting the community at large. My Black History Month recognition tonight is Mr. Dennis Williams. Dennis Williams is the Senior Vice President of Corporate Affairs and Corporate Social Responsibility at Warner Media. By leading the Corporate Social Responsibility, CSR, efforts for Warner Media, Dennis is responsible for the company's philanthropic strategies, community and external partnerships, volunteer engagement, governance, board placement, and managing key Warner Media CSR initiatives. Prior to Warner Media, though, Dennis worked in an affiliate sales and marketing. He came in 1997. Dennis worked in human resources and later worked in affiliate sales and marketing at HBO, working on projects which focused on multicultural audiences and how we speak to and give back to those communities. In 2010, his current boss asked him, "What do you want to do?" And he responded that he was interested in corporate social responsibility. So in September of the same year, he was asked to join the team and build the Corporate Social Responsibility Program and became the Senior VP of Corporate Social Responsibility for HBO. Hey. Dennis is also an advocate for equality and education and LGBTQ rights, and serves on the board for the Fund for Public Schools, Horizon National, and New York's LGBTQ Community Center. But as a single father, I am going here. Dennis and his son Elon have an incredible father-son relationship that I have had the honor of seeing up close and just have admired how he has fathered his son. He and Alon were chosen for a father-son edition for a fashion spread and has even graced the covers, if we could keep moving,
Oh,
covers
come
of the
on.
2018 Luomo Vogue, okay, cover, okay? And of course, as you just saw, he is truly a Kansas City Chiefs fan, ladies and gentlemen. But beginning in December 2022, Dennis and Elon are now featured every Wednesday evening on the ABC series The Parent Test. And
He's one of the parents. Oh,
and
I
he
love
has
it.
received some sharp criticism over his parenting choices. He and 11 other parents invited cameras into their homes to allow us to see how they parent for an open discussion about their different parenting styles. But in this next clip, I want you to see Dennis as he's being asked about fatherhood. If we could run the clip.
I have a final question for you. What does fatherhood mean to you?
It means so many things. What surprises me is how much I think about the future. And I think this is the case for a lot of parents. I don't think about my future. I think about his future. I spend so much time. I interpret news stories and climate change. And I always think, like, what's it going to be like for him, right? And what role do I have in ensuring that whatever faces him in the future, he's equipped with the tools and the resources and the ability to navigate and manage those circumstances. And so I spend a lot of time thinking about, how he pays for college. It's not about my student loans. It's about whether or not it's going to be crippling for him and his generations after, or like all of those things. It's to move out of a selfish space and out into a selfless space, right? To recenter my thinking around another human being. And you don't have to be a parent to experience that. You just got to find someone whose life matters so much to you that you're willing to make sacrifices and changes in your life for their life to be better.
My salute to Dennis. I want to share with you actually how I got to meet Dennis very quickly. It was 2016. We were in Puerto Vallarta, one of my favorite places in the world. I'm sitting on the beach talking to this wonderful man just about my aspirations, life, and just getting to know who he was. Didn't know what he did or anything of the sort. And during that time, he had a friend who was very close to him who had passed away, who lived in DC. And 3 weeks later, Dennis had asked me, because we had talked about me singing and being in a gospel arena, if he could bring if I could help, provide musicians for the service. And I did, if we could keep moving to the next slide. This is a beautiful picture of his son that I've just had the pleasure of meeting while I was there in Puerto Vallarta. And I'm going to make this completely personal, okay? But when I talked with Dennis, when I provided the music for him, Dennis told me that he would forever be indebted to me. And I was just being Alvin King, but his heart is so big. A few years later, I decided that I wanted to produce an event for diabetes awareness. And I just said, well, let me call some folks and let me call, Dennis and see if he could be, a sponsor for the event. And he did in a big way, ladies and gentlemen. And for those of you who have seen Swirls and Chords, have come to one of my fashion shows where I bring awareness to diabetes and the impact that it can have on African Americans, those 3-letter words up there is the reason why the show has done so well. And I owe all of that to Dennis. He made it possible for me to have A-list folks to participate in the show, like Shirley Ralph, and this is Angela Stribling. And the show, unfortunately, due to COVID, we've had to stop doing it. But Dennis opened his heart and his wallet, and he made me realize that there are good people in this world that will do good for you if you just let them know what you need. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, I am honoring someone that I hope you all get a chance to meet one day in this world, Mr. Dennis Williams. Okay, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh my God, Dennis, and I got chilled because he's on right here. Thank you. I didn't know he was gonna
I
be
love
right
it.
here. Okay, okay. I love you more, Dennis. Well,
I love it.
ladies and gentlemen, next week, I don't know if we've been saying it, but next week is our 2nd year anniversary show. We've been doing it for 2 years. And we're going to take the show on the road, ladies and gentlemen, live, and we're going to touch each other. We're not going to be in separate rooms. We're going to be in the same room.
What?
We're going to touch each other. Yes, we are. We're going to reach out and touch. Oh, and we're going to be in Philadelphia at the Aquava, and the Aquava Bed and Breakfast Inn. Is that how it's correct pronounced, lady Vash?
Yes, the Aquava Inn.
The Aquava Inn. We will be there, and of course, we're going to send some advertisements out. If you happen to be in Philadelphia, please reach out to us. But we are so looking forward to this show. Lots of special surprises. But we're going to be in one place
for the first time.
For the first
time.
Hosting our anniversary show. So please stay tuned. Look for advertisements this week. And if we could bring Romal Tune back, that would be great. And
bam.
I would like to share with everybody our words of the week before we go. I'm like so nervous just talking about my friend. I can't believe it. If you can fly, then run. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. And that was a quote by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., ladies and gentlemen. Amen. So thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you, Romal Tune. Once again. Wow.
Our joy. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well worth the wait, my brother. Okay, so I just want to tell you that. So best of luck to you and your endeavors. And he said are behind you. So whatever you need, you give us a call, please.
And come back. We want to hear about what's going on.
Absolutely.
Come back and spread some more love because we need that.
Amen.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. And we will see you next week at our 2nd anniversary show on the new episode of He Said. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for coming, everybody. See you next week in Philly.
Go Birds. Go Birds.